Yo, what's up? Today we're watching a video called You Have No Idea What a DLC is, and this is a topic I am super fucking interested in because I hate when people say that shit looks like a DLC when it's clearly a sequel. These two things are separate. Yes, a sequel can look similar to the previous game because it is the same game, part 2. And I think this video, I pretty liked it obviously because, you know, that's how we roll on YouTube. I don't know. I wonder if he has any good points. Let's just see.
The Kingdom video a few days ago, I've learned something. People are complaining that the game looks like DLC, and while a year ago I think that conversation could have been had.
Alright, by the way, I haven't seen the trailers for either of the games, and I don't know. I could know the general idea of how the first game looks, but I haven't played it.
That's not the case anymore. The truth is, if you think this game looks like DLC, you have no idea what you're talking about. If you think this, if you think like this,
just
you fundamentally have no clue what DLC even is and has historically been. This game is a sequel through and through, and no amount of asset or reuse.
Okay, let's see. So what historically has DLC been? All right, well this screenshot straight up looks not like the first Zelda game.
Reusing of the map changes that. I guess over the past decade, with DLC becoming more and more common, and in particular, big DLC becoming super prominent, people have sort of lost sight of what makes content DLC rather than a whole new game. So let me try to educate you.
Yeah.
DLC is traditionally something small. Usually it is a fraction of the scale.
I mean, like the first DLC, right? Bad frame to pause on. I can't get a fucking break with the frames. Okay, we'll be looking at the ass for now, I guess. DLC, right, is something that goes in your game that you already have. If it doesn't modify the initial game, or generally, it just adds way the fuck ton of new stuff, or like a completely new shit, then it could be considered a sequel. But if it is not within the same game, you know, it is by definition not DLC. But you know, definition doesn't really matter. What we're talking about is like what it feels like. We gotta go to next frame. Right. Sorry, I can't. Alright, let's think. So the first DLC, right? That's the horse. No. The horse was the first like purchasable DLC. I think. Would an update be considered DLC? Kind of, but you can play without it, whereas DLC is like pretty much built into the game. Like you can buy it separately if you want. But some games actually have it baked in by default now once the update comes out, and some games give it for free. Okay, you know what? I don't know how to define it. Let's see what he has to say. Really, I'm not sure.
This DLC comes in the form of a few extra missions, a new difficulty mode, or a new map or two in a multiplayer shooter game.
But not in recent times, right? In recent times, DLC has been, or no, not always, but a lot of times it's been huge amounts of content, maybe a whole ass new map for a game that you've beaten.
But when I think of a good modern DLC, especially in a...
That's literally what I was thinking of. This is the exact example I was thinking of as I was talking about DLC, guys. The Frozen Wilds.
A single player context, I think of Horizon Zero Dawn's Frozen Wilds expansion.
Yeah, exactly. It is, the initial game remains the same, but there's a whole ass new part of the map that you can go to and a lot more content to explore. And it also slightly modifies the way the base game is played, like adds a little bit of new stuff.
In Splatoon 2, and the recent LEGO or Hot Wheels expansions in the Forza Horizon series.
Exactly.
All of these DLC add new
That's so funny,
content
by the way. They added fucking Hot Wheels to Forza.
Base game, but in no way are they reinventing the wheel. They take the foundation laid out by the original game and turn those aspects up to 11, usually offering more difficult challenges,
more difficult challenges, usually more it's typically bonus and game content. Like you beat the game, now you can go do this DLC stuff.
Short story and new areas. They might introduce slightly new weapons or cosmetics like vehicles and costumes, but for the most part, it is fundamentally the same experience as the base, just expanded upon. That being said, there are examples of even bigger DLC, though this is much less common and is usually reserved for
Bro, I thought that was gonna say Sword Art Online
style games. Yeah, and these are usually promoted as full new releases anyway.
Kinda promoted like it, but they're still treated as DLC. Like, yeah.
They still reuse assets. They are still fundamentally the same gameplay-wise, but they add a substantial amount of new playable content.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you know what? I actually agree with that. If it is literally the same, if a new game feels like DLC, then what you're saying is the game is literally identical in terms of all the gameplay, and there's like maybe one or two new mechanics, and maybe new shit to do, a bit more stuff to do. But otherwise, what you're talking about is a new game, a sequel. a brand could release something the size of a sequel and basically the proportions of one into the base game, but the reason that would still be considered DLC is because what it does is alter the base game. It's not a straight up new thing, and if it is, then they shouldn't brand it as a DLC because that is just stupid. Why would you do that?
A new story, new music, enemies, etc. Monster Hunter World Iceborne and Monster Hunter Rise.
Like, okay, think of it this way. Imagine if Subnautica, what's it called? The ice version of Subnautica was released as DLC. That would make literally no sense because while the core gameplay is similar, it is very clearly a whole new map. There's the material types used to get the same stuff is different. And it does not modify the base game. It is not just downloadable content for the base game. It is a separate game, even though it plays in a similar way, and it does not feel like DLC.
Examples of this.
And I think this is the exact same case in the game he's talking about.
But here's the thing. Up until Monster Hunter World,
Zelda, I forgot what it's called.
Any new major content that got added to Monster Hunter was released as a full new version of the game, a full new retail release.
Right, but most games wouldn't do that.
But as time went on and DLC became more commonplace and accepted by the community, Capcom shifted to releasing new game price expansions instead.
Yeah.
Destiny is another great example because when that game was released back in 2014, they released a couple of standard DLC packs like you'd expect, but then when Destiny 2 came out just 2 years later, they shifted to releasing massive expansions instead of sequels. Content-wise, these are sequels. They are released at full retail price for a new game in America, they continue the plot, they continue the story, and in both cases, these expansions continue to get more DLC and content updates before the next one comes out.
Yeah, it's not an entirely new experience. The plotline doesn't change. It could even modify a part of it, but it will still be the same thing.
New retail release, they are marketed as new games. 10 years ago, they would have been released as new games, and no one would have batted an eye. That's what a sequel is. Tears of the Kingdom is reusing assets, some music, and a large portion of Breath of the Wild's map. But the key difference...
Okay, no, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
The thing that separates Tears of the Kingdom from all of the different types of DLC I just went over, the thing that helps clearly differentiate this game from Breath of the Wild is its mechanics. Fundamentally, this game is going to play very differently.
All right, well, that's it. That's all I had to hear. Honestly, from the trailers, I didn't know that, and from what the footage she's shown so far, I had no idea. So, no, that completely explains it if the mechanics are different. Because I was gonna say, yeah, if it's reusing parts of the same map and all of that, then I would kind of argue that it does feel like a DLC, but no, clearly it's not. Okay, that's fair.
Breath of the Wild. As far as we know, all 4 of Link's main abilities from Breath of the Wild are completely gone and have been replaced.
All right, yeah, no. In that case, I wouldn't consider DLC.
Anyone that played Breath of the Wild for any consequential.
I wouldn't even mention that like 5 minutes ago, whatever. That I think what DLC is if it just adds a new mechanic, that's DLC. If it changes everything, that's new game.
How important those abilities were, and should be able to see how much adding these 4 new ones will change how you interact with the game. Now, I don't know about you, but I can safely say I have never played a piece of downloadable content that exclusively features new abilities that heavily change the way you play the game while removing the old ones.
Yep, and where you can't do the original method of playing. No, that's just not how. That's just not what DLC is.
While removing the old ones. I've never seen that with the DLC. Mm-hmm. And while we're on the topic of removing content, let's talk about the map, because this seems to be the main point of contention. They say, because they're using the same map as a base, that makes it DLC. Let me ask you this. Do you really think that the ground map, the map from Breath of the Wild, not talking about the new Sky Islands, which look very substantial...
Actually, yeah, when he showed that, I was like, yeah, that straight up looks like new game stuff. When there was like stuff in the background of the video, I was like, yo, I don't remember that in Breath of the Wild. What was the fucking Breath of the Wild?
Do you really think it's going to have the same content? Do you think it will feature the same shrines?
Obviously not. It's
divine beasts.
It's a new game, just same map, but like similar... just modified same map. It's
puzzles.
It's not.
Do you really think they're going to leave all of that stuff there and add nothing new to it? Because I promise you, not a single piece of that content. Once again, side quest.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. Having not played the game and being seemingly uninformed, I'd 100% agree, because that is just not how games are made. And if it is, then this is the worst game ever, and nobody's gonna buy it because you already played it just in a different form. That would be the stupidest decision a company could possibly make and take. That would be the stupidest direction a company could take their game. 100% think there's no chance it does that.
Shrines, divine beasts,
they do that.
Will even be reused. There's literally nothing to suggest that. And even if the ground map itself is unchanged geographically, which it is, we know it is based on the caves and fact that the shrines aren't in the game, how could this possibly be DLC if they remove all of the main interactable quests and replace them with completely new ones? We don't know exactly what Nintendo was replacing all that content with, but there's absolutely no
But I mean, we'll find out. They're able to build a whole game from the ground up, so we can very easily expect them to be able to fill an already existing map with shit if they're able to fill an empty space with a map and then shit on top of it. You know what I mean? Like,
to the best-selling Zelda game of all time that's been in development for 5 years.
That would have been so clean.
Less content somehow.
Like I was watching the arrow shit.
That doesn't even make sense. Gameplay. I was talking to someone who made a really good point here. She said that if this game took place exclusively on the Sky Islands, people wouldn't be complaining anywhere near as much. If this game simply featured less...
The reason people call it DLC is simply because it has a lot of stuff from the base game.
By removing the ground map, people would be happier. And you know what? She's completely right.
Yep, and it stinks. And you'd have... Like, it is just terrain. All they're keeping for the first game is terrain. It's a new game.
Fact that they're reusing any assets or areas at all for some reason just riles people up. If they're adding new things to discover, who cares if parts of the map are geographically the same? Now, to be fair,
really, it depends on how much new content there is. Because, like, I wouldn't if the new game doesn't have enough new features to interact with, and like the base map is altered, so there's even less stuff to do. So you're kind of just replaying the old game, but with less features or slightly changed features. It would feel pretty shit, and I could 100% see it getting pissed. Now, would I call that DLC? No, I would call it a horseshit sequel, but I could see getting mad at that.
Subnautica Below Zero, by the way, people called it a DLC.
Yeah, I mentioned that already.
Okay, fuck.
I was one of these people up until that most recent gameplay demonstration. The marketing for this game has done it absolutely no favors. I want to make that perfectly clear because while I'm glad they haven't shown too much at this point, because at this point I kind of just want to discover everything on my own, the marketing for this game has been pretty lackluster overall, but I do respect Nintendo for kind of holding it closer to their chest because...
But I don't think marketing matters, because at the end of the day, the real marketing are the friends who made it along the way. No, that's not what I wanted to say. I just can't start a sentence with the real something and then not finish it with the friends who made it along the way. No, what I actually wanted to say is I think the real marketing is going to come from people playing it on YouTube and Twitch and all that. It's the content. This
game is all about discovery, and there's going to be hundreds of hours of new content to discover, which is awesome, so shout out to them for that. But I do kind of I see where people are coming from. You know, I understand why people...
So long as the game gets just enough hype for people who previously played it to go enjoy the new game and spread word about it, it's going to become big in the contents here, and then eventually people are going to start buying the game. That's just how YouTube works right now.
Before this most recent gameplay demonstration,
in general, not YouTube, internet platforms,
being a little bit more critical of it. With that being said, to wrap things up here, if you think this game looks like DLC, you simply don't know what you're talking about.
I generally agree. I think it's not even that you don't know what you're talking about. I think it's that the marketing kind of lied to you, but lied in a good way, if that makes sense. Like, not intentionally lied, just straight up like you were misinformed by the marketing. That's a percentage of the people. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that would just be stupid and not know what they're talking about, as the guy said. But I don't think that's everyone who thinks the game is DLC. As this guy said, the marketing hasn't done the game any favors. I mean, he literally pointed that out himself, so it's only fair to assume that a lot of people will have assumed the game isn't going to be that great or as different from the base one from the marketing.
DLC. Majora's Mask is DLC. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is DLC. Dark Souls 3 is DLC. If you don't know the difference between DLC and a sequel, that's fine. Just stay out of the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that honestly, what a good line to end it on. Jesus Christ. Okay, if you don't understand something, stay out of it or try learn. That's two options. Either learn or stay out. I think don't try to talk about it until you're informed. You can make guesses, but preemptively fucking say that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about and you're here to learn or to guess. Don't just say that is fact if you don't fucking know. Great. I'm just gonna say bars. Absolute bars. See that? Bars. Comment. All right, if you hit up my description, the first link is going to be his video. The second link is going to be my main channel. Go give this video a watch, because obviously by just watching my video, you're kind of just, taking a view from him and giving it to me instead. That's not very fair. And with that said, do the issue thing. You know what to do. Make the algorithm proud. I think it helps, but I don't actually know, because I feel like it doesn't. I have videos with way more likes that get way less views, and videos with way better like ratios that get more views. So I think I think it just doesn't matter anymore. But regardless, I guess sub for more shit. Next video is coming out in 2 hours if I don't goof up. So see you in 2 hours, I guess. Bye. Okay, bye. Ah!